What? What time is it?
You got 15 seconds. It's counting down.
No,
Oh,
it's
you live?
on Facebook.
I don't know. I say live and it's counting.
It is live, but also on Facebook is not. But we're gonna roll. All right, Black Box Radio. Today we're in the community corner. It's the corner, Toine.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I am Queen. I'm from Black Box Radio. I'm a host at Black Box Radio. We are a media platform for Black excellence. And what we do is we connect the community with information. We need access to information, and we try our best to put it out for the community, for the Black community, but also platform great leaders, people who are just effectual in their space. So it's important for Black people to have platforms, and that's what Black Box Radio gives. So I have a co-host in the corner. It's Antoine Qualls L. Tell them who you are, Antoine.
Antoine Qualls L, founder, lead advocate, organizer for Hope Baltimore, helping oppressed people excel, which sustains, support, and gap filling model for ex-offenders to connect with proper resources for a stable and safe transition. We located in Mount Vernon and Emmanuel Episcopal Church, 811 Cathedral, Tuesday nights from 6:30 to 7:45 p.m. every Tuesday. Come through, check us out, come apart, be a part, help the healing that Baltimore needs, and build the bridges and legacies from believing in someone else that can be the hope for others and communities.
You better look at you. I love that. Look at you coming. I love that. All right, tonight we have a special guest.
Oh, man.
I can't even begin to tell you guys how special this guest is. We have Mr. Fagan Harris. Fagan, thank you for being on the community corner with us.
Queen, thanks for having me. Antoine, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, you do so much for me, man. It's only
you are the most admired. You're one of the most admired CEOs by the Daily Record.
So, is that what they're saying?
Yeah. You don't even know that, brother. Yeah. They just called you out as one of the most admired. I'm like, that's what's up. That's a beautiful thing. I just want to say to the people, I got to do a little backstory. Is that I started this platform in 2019. But as I've been actually in media and in the community, I'm seeing these young people, which are the squeegee kids and all type of young people who don't have opportunities between the ages of probably like 16 and 25. So I said, listen, I want to be the social entrepreneur. I want to be able to pour into young people. So Toine said, listen, you need to take that idea and apply for the Elevation Award. I said, what? What's the Elevation Award? So he told me about it. And then this guy called Nigel called me. And we talked about it. And it's like, yeah, I think you should apply for that. And I became an elevator in 2021, the 2021 cohort. I am a elevator. I just graduated or just ascended in October. So I want to just say first, I appreciate you for starting something so amazing. Toine is an elevator. I'm an elevator. I changed it to elevator. I don't know if you know.
I love it.
Because I believe, the elevator brings people up. And so you get on and it brings you up, or it moves things around. So exactly. I'm an elevator. I just finished the cohort. Baltimore Corps has been an amazing experience for me. I'm so glad that was your brainchild. It's amazing. And it really poured into
fun thing to build. I'm so glad that you've been in the cohort and your experience. Thank you for your leadership. And, that team over there, Jennifer Clark and Caitlin Bernal and Nigel, Ray Garcia. I mean, they're some of our best folks, and we got some phenomenal partners around the table. So thanks for being part of it. We had a good time.
Yes, we did. I really appreciate that. And other social entrepreneurs, not just being a part of it, but the process of being in connection with other people doing social entrepreneurship in Baltimore City. That was, you partner, you learn, you grow together.
Yeah, you're supported because it gets lonely. Right? Like something that I think you have in common, that I think Antoine has in common, like y'all move through the world and you see the way the world ought to be, right? You don't actually see what's around you. You see what could be, right? You have vision. And I find that certain people are just wired that way, and they're all over our city. And elevation is meant to be like a lighthouse for them, right?
Wow.
We want them to come together and realize that you're not alone trying to do this. That you got other crazy people out here with you. So
absolutely, absolutely. So Toine told me about how great you are and how you have been such a great help to him in his growth. Toine, tell us about Fagan a little.
Fagan, man, awesome guy. Rooted from pure, genuine, just like helping. You know what I'm saying? Where I come from, like few people find a team and they build together, and we had connected, and like I don't even know if Fagan remember this. Like I said, Fagan, man, like I can build this. I just need to like stay focused and like not get caught up in all the raptures. And he was like, all you gotta do is stay passionate to doing the work, to want to continue to help and build community and the people and everything else. Like your life will change generally, and from that, I was like, we just stuck together, collaborated, shared ideas, talked about stuff, by the way, like I'm an elevation warrior out to like second cycle, amazingly, like I didn't think I was gonna win. 284. Yeah, I'm boasting on it now. 284 applied.
Really?
I got picked out the 20. Then I got selected as like 4 in the top 12. So
Antoine tore it up. He tore it up.
I know he tore it up.
He tore it up. He tore it up.
That's when you had to come and actually present, right? Okay, wow. You went in there and killed them.
I had my little packet, my flyers, and I said I need help. But like I know generally like people, Fagan one of the people, man, from like a top level that takes interest in who's all involved and watching pieces that all fit together to play a part to build a foundation so others can grow from it, and that's the way things need to be built, from a sturdiness. When the foundation is sturdy, the other ones can have something grounded to land on, and when like tornadoes and all that stuff come through, like it's gonna be the roads that grinds through the concrete, because you have to find your measure of way through all that water, rain, sleet, snow, people kicking you, all that, but you have to find your niche and stay accustomed to it, because one of the things that like I used to say to Fagan, like coming from the streets, like there was a lot of guys I could have dealt with, but I stayed in my lane, they was in their lane, and I knew interactions at certain times wasn't good. High and bys, like, what's up? Keep it moving, but like everybody is not good for everybody. There's something you can learn from everybody, but everybody ain't meant to be in your partnership. Everybody ain't meant to be in your family. Everybody ain't meant to be in your network. Everybody ain't meant, so you gotta know that specific piece that fits and works with you. And while you doing your thing, y'all doing it. And then like when people go inside measures of rooms, that there's collaboration always being talked about the work that y'all doing together. So it's not like, oh, I'm doing this. And they say, well, Antoine said y'all a network partner and da-da-da. Oh, yeah. But let me tell you what I'm doing, and Fagan taught me to always like be mindful and open to people, because the one time that I continue to not thinking that I got it and can't grow, that's when everybody's going to leave. So Man, I thank you for so much, man. You already know, man.
Brother.
Changed my life, and we changed many, 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 many others. You know what I'm saying? So
that's amazing.
Killing
That's
it,
amazing.
Man.
And you're on his board, so you guys have a relationship, a symbiotic relationship. That's amazing, amazing. So Fagan, tell us, we hear how great you are, and I know you're brilliant. I'm clear about all of that, but just tell a little backstory. Tell us about you, Fagan Harris. Where are you from? A little background, so because we all are just people. When we peel back all the layers, we all are just people. So 100%. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'll start. Actually, I'm going to tell a story I've never told before. That kind of answer that, and it also ties into how I met Antoine.
Okay.
So I'm going to answer your question, and I'm going to talk about how I know Antoine. So, I am first and foremost my mother's son, and so my mother was a remarkable person. She was born in South Georgia in a little town called Albany. She was one of 11. My grandparents were pecan farmers and worked odd jobs. My grandfather maybe had a second grade education. One of my prized possessions is my mother's birth certificate. And then where the parent's supposed to sign, there's an X where her dad made his mark, and then the nurse notated his mark,
his name
on the certificate. And so she was born at home. This is before hospitals. This is before running water. I mean, she was down out there in the sticks, and went to segregated schools, graduated high school, went and served in the U.S. military during Vietnam, and came home and basically started working in social work. And that's where she met my dad. They both kind of were helped by those programs and then wanted to help other people. They then had me. We moved around, bumped around a lot. And throughout my life, my mother was my best friend. She was my confidant. She was like my number one fan. She and I were always in sync. And she knew I always cared about Baltimore because in some ways we settled here when I was like in the first grade, when I was 6 years old.
Okay.
And I always kind of adopted Baltimore as my hometown precisely because we moved around so much. And, when my parents, they were an interracial couple, when they got together, there was a lot of fallout and a lot of drama. And so they left a lot of their social capital behind in the South. And then they moved like 10 or 11 times in like 5 or 6 years. And so when we settled, I really wanted to be from someplace, right? I wanted to have roots, and I wanted to have like a family I could choose, right? A community I could really invest in. And so when I got older, I was incredibly lucky and blessed. I went to college, had a lot of opportunity, but when I hit my mid-20s, I wasn't happy. And it was largely because I felt disconnected from a place. It was because I felt disconnected from community. And so, I called my mom, and she was like, yeah, you should just come home and you should build here and find ways to be usul. And so
where were you?
Home. I was in California.
Okay.
I was working in the Bay Area.
Okay.
I was basically teaching night school and working at an after school program called College Track. And so I was helping first generation immigrants and first generation college students get to and through college, and was teaching class at night and working in the program during the day. I loved it. Working with young people, working with kids.
Yeah.
But it wasn't my community, and I was missing my place, and I was missing home.
Yeah.
And so came home and started building Baltimore Corps. And mom was right there, first event, she was a fabulous cook. She made like crab cakes, and, she was like in the passenger seat, right? We were doing this together. And on my 30th birthday, she got a terminal cancer diagnosis. And it was like my whole world fell apart, and it all kind of came crashing down. And like, we ended up losing her not quite a year later. And I'll be honest, I kind of turned into a ghost there for a while, right? Like I was at work, but I wasn't really at work. And my kind of heart and my passion for the work evaporated because she was such a big part of the motivation for me.
Sure.
Like doing this with her and being rooted in community, something she valued, the example she lived, how she lived, so much of how I am is through her. And I live in Mount Vernon, and I live above this little convenience shop. And I'm down in the convenience shop. This maybe a year or two after I lost mom, and I'm kind of going through the motion. And then Antoine walks up to me, and he was like, "Hey, you remember me?" And I was like, "Vaguely. I feel like we've met." And he was like, "Yeah, like we met through this program, like da 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 da." And we started talking, and he was like, "You should come check out what I'm doing over here at Emmanuel." And I said, "Well, what are you doing over here at Emmanuel?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm getting these guys who are getting back from behind the fence, and we're building a support around them. We're helping them get work, working on their resume, help someone get CDL license. Some of them need help in recovery, help them do this." And I was like, "Yeah, all right, with you and what army? Like, who, when you say we, like, who is we? Like, who's doing all of it?"
You like, couldn't do it. Yeah, it got to be an army.
Yeah. He's like, "I'm doing this." And I was like, "Well, who's paying for it?" He's like, "I'm paying for it." I was like, "How are you paying for it?" He's like, "I'm paying for it out of my paycheck." Now, in that moment, I was like,
wow.
I don't see that very often, I'll be honest. And I've seen a lot of stuff. I've been in this game for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I pretty much have seen it all, but I never saw that. Wow. And I was like, is this guy for real? Is he really doing all of this? And so I started kind of calling around, being like, "Hey, what y'all know about Antoine?" And people started saying, "He's the real deal, man. You got to go see what he's doing." And so I started digging in. And it is like the most effective social enterprise I have ever seen anywhere.
It's very effective.
Period. Full stop.
Period. That's true.
And what that did for me, in all seriousness, is it relit the fire that got extinguished for me. And I actually like fell back in love with my job, because I was like, if this man can do this, if this man can do this after he's been through what he's been through, that I better pick myself up off the mat and get back to work, because I still have a role to play. Like helping brothers like this get a little further and reach a little farther. That's like my job in the process, right? Mm-hmm. I can't, Antoine and I talk a lot about in life, you got to know which lane you're in. I can't do certain things that he's able to do. Those aren't my gifts and talents. Absolutely. I shouldn't try to, I shouldn't pretend to. That's not appropriate. I can be a friend, and I can be a partner, and I can be of support. And part of my role is getting behind the people who are doing the real work and bring in the spotlight and bring in the army and bring in the reinforcements and help and bring the capital. Mm-hmm. Because if we build around the people who are already building, that's how we get to where we're going as a community. And so I wanted to tell that story because Antoine has done as much for me, if not more, than anything I've done for him. Because I don't know that I would still be doing this if I hadn't met Antoine. In all seriousness, I was kind of ready to go do something else.
Wow. So where did you guys initially meet? You said you met in a program. What program did you guys?
So I was in a public safety compact.
Got it.
When the funding got cut, we was building Hathaway was building a collaborative board team to help voice and financially raise money to bring back up the seed money for us, right? Because it was 100 guys was supposed to be paroled out. And at that time, you know, they was like, "Yo, they having this meeting upstairs with these big people. You need to come up there, da-da-da." And I say, "Bro, like, we got to figure out a way how to get people on the street aware that Governor Hogan cut the funding off, their families locked up, they need to write letters, support, boom." So they was like, "Yo, it's a dude up there, like, he got this Wolverine bush, and he just like, yo, he's really trying to help us, right?" So one day I came up there, we met, and as we got like, I was set up to go see Secretary Moyer and them. And then later on that day, after we went, they shot us down. Like, we ain't doing it. We're going to do it ourselves, y'all. We don't need safe and sound. And, you know, Fagan was like, "Man, I'm like really tired of this. These people think like they got the best. Like, they should have like talked with y'all." And then like, they basically connived and said, "Well, we'll set up a meeting with Weinberg and get Weinberg to get y'all some funding." And I was like, man, so we was all arguing, right? Everybody split up. And I hadn't seen Fagan no more until that day I walked to get that coffee. And I was like, "Yo, that's dude." I was like, "Man, listen, like, bro, listen, we still doing this and such, it ain't never end I'm doing it out my pocket. I'm taking a little money here, that. And, you know, I said, I'm going to bring it back somehow, some way. I don't know. But and then one day Dr. Sinclair was like, I want you to meet this lady named Sharon Russell. And she was like, oh, you need to like fill out for the Elevation Award. And I was like, Elevation Award? What is that? She was like, Baltimore Corps. I was like, Baltimore Corps? Who, like, where these people come from? I never even heard of this stuff. She was like, well, they give out $10,000. And I was like, somebody gonna give me $10,000, you sirs? I was like, Mr. Ron, I'm honest. If they give me $10,000, I'm gonna save the city. I'm telling you. But so I went up there, you know, everybody had their computers, their suits on. I come there, my little Hope t-shirt on, my little folder, throwing it out, you know. And that was the best way I knew how to do to get people to see actually what we were doing, you know.
Exactly.
And
that was what was so powerful about it, Antoine, is like, and I'm sure, Queen, you run into this, where people want to do social entrepreneurship. And the thing everybody always asks is, well, how do I get started? Or where do I begin? Or everyone's always looking for permission.
Yep.
Or authorization.
Absolutely.
Or approval.
Yes.
And I find that most social entrepreneurs that I know that have a lot of success, they just go do it. They just go do it. Like, it's not even a matter of if I'm going to try this. It's like, no, I'm just going to go do this because it needs to happen. And when I saw Antoine that day and he was like, yo, I'm just personally financing this. And I know the governor cut like $15 million for this program, but I'm going to rebuild it from the ground up. Like, I am unfazed. Like, I am enough. Get out of my way. That's force of nature. And like, as a city, we're trying to build a culture that can recognize that and then resource it and then get the hell out of the way.
Yep.
That's it in a nutshell.
That's it. You know, usually when I see social entrepreneurs, I see a rebellious nature. They've been rebelling a long time. It didn't just start with them doing this. They've been doing this all throughout their life and they don't know another way. You know, I know that I've tried to start things in Morgan. You know, I've always been that way. And so
you can't help it.
I can't help it.
I tell people,
I'm afraid to not do it. Like some people say they're afraid to do it. I'm afraid not to do it. And so that's how I've lived my whole life. And so social entrepreneurs are amazing. They have a lot of heart, but they got a lot of hustle because
it's all hustle.
It's all hustle. You know, it's all hustle. And if you're not ready to hustle and rejection and do a lot by yourself,
then don't do that.
Go get a
wrong
job.
Career. Go do something else.
Career.
It starts with you. It's connected to you, and it ends with you.
But I tell you, Antoine and I got coffee. He and I got coffee, and we're sitting there. This is after elevation, all this.
Okay.
And he's sitting down. He's like, I want to build like a great organization, and I want to learn how to be a CEO. Is what he told me. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? He's like, well, there's a lot of stuff I don't know. I don't know how to do this, or like how to do financials, or how to build a team, or how to set direction. And I kind of looked at him and I was like, I think you already know how to do all this stuff. It's not called that from where you're from.
It's called something else.
It's called something else.
Yeah.
But all your life you have organized people, organized money to get to a goal.
Boom.
Yep.
Boom.
And so when we reframed that, he was like, oh, I actually do know how to be a CEO. Like, I've actually been a CEO for decades.
Decades, yeah.
And he is a wildly effective CEO. Like, he's got his own way of doing it, but he is so good at his job. And that's a big value system for us at Baltimore Corps, is try to see people for who they are and try to lift up where their strengths are and organize around that. And I think sometimes, particularly with Black communities, we're always looking at the deficit, particularly people with power and money, right? And the culture of white supremacy is very much about making us feel less than, to make us feel like we're not enough.
Exactly.
When we are all we need.
All of
and it. The sooner we can recognize that, nourish that, and lift that up to elevate it,
the more powerful we'll be. And a lot of that is learned behavior and social engineering. So we've been engineered to think that we're less than, that we need permission, and all of these things that we do. It comes from a behavior that's learned and generational trauma. When you're traumatized, you move a different way. You think a different way. And then we continue to be traumatized. And so it's just a never ending battle of what we're packing as a people. But then in our neighborhoods and in our communities, we have special people. We have the lady in the neighborhood who takes care of all of the kids. It's always something going on to keep us together. But we have to now find those folks and move them towards more structure, because our communities are suffering.
Yes.
Are literally suffering. And so that pulls us into the topic, like social entrepreneurship. And I want to read like the definition. Social entrepreneurship is an approach by individuals, groups, startup companies, and entrepreneurs in which they develop, fund, implement solutions to social, cultural, and environmental issues. So it really is finding a problem in your community, finding ways to solve it. And you might do it with a group, you might do it individually, you might do it as a company, but it's social entrepreneurship. And our neighborhoods could grow immensely if we all think about, well, who can? Because not everyone can be a social entrepreneur. It's not come open a door and you can do it. No. But if you have the wherewithal, if you have the hustle gene, a social entrepreneurship is a blessing for a community, a Black community, I think.
Like when I think back, like when I was little, social entrepreneur, right, been going on for ages, because you had the lady who had the alley store, you had grandma who had the frozen cups, you had the little kids who was running the car wash out the 2 front yards, homeboy them across the street waxing, like they like where I grew up at Park Heights, there was a lady named Miss Eleanor and her husband Tom Bradley. Like from Borman and Ricestown to like Park Heights and Classen. I mean, Borman and Park Heights to Park Heights and Classen. It was the fire station. Then there was an old man named Mr. Peace that had like videos and like PD burgers and fries for like $2.20 or $1.50 with a soda. But then Mr. Brad and them had the fish market, the fruit stands. They had everything on Ricestown and Cold Spring. They had the Christmas trees. They had the crab. And they will allow people to just like who need it. Like at time, grandma would like go up there and see Eleanor and tell her, I said, send me some fish, some batter, some potatoes, and give me the little paper. And at the end of the week, whenever she got some money, that's how she paid it back. And people had always been doing that, and that has like burnt out in communities.
Yes.
And now everybody's fighting for these titles of nonprofits. And I want to be a 501c3. I want to do this. And then they I'm saying like validated businesses are in the hood and people know how to do this as community organizing. Get mom and on, I'm going to do this myself. I ain't going to connect with them and I don't want nothing to do with them, because like people get so tired and burnt out and frustrated because they've been fighting for so long. Like you said, Fagan, they need that instant hit, to electrify them again.
Yeah.
And these are the people like, and then some of them monopolized, like have gotten moved away because the crime epidemic has been shifted right to their front door.
Yeah.
And I always tell like, we can't like, we blame the systemic powers, but we have adopted the theories to survive that measure. Because when I look up, it's all of us that's kicking doors and kidnapping, but out of the measure to survive, we're doing only what we were shown off of cowboy movies. The Long Ranger and Tonto, you know what I'm saying? Ain't nobody want to be the Long Ranger, but everybody want to be Tonto. Good, bad, and ugly, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Everybody want to be Clint Eastwood or Charles Bronson with the 44, Everybody want to be these specific people, but like there's no things to show us like how revolutionaries build up their community together and then we mobilize it to educate, teach, build economy and build sales in it, keep the money in it, fix the house up and sell it so mom can get out the other houses being ran down and they can move into this one, you know. So it's a lot of work to be done, but it's a lot of education that need to be discussed in community places to talk about these things.
I think that a lot of times the community is fractured. And it's fractured by so many layers of junk, from drugs to lack of resources. It all promotes the chaos that we see and the lack of connection between the people, because the families are broken down, the relationships are broken down, so the community breaks down. And so now we see what the cause and effect of all of these issues coming into the Black community. So what at this point can we do to change the trajectory? Because we have young children growing up in the same chaos, experiencing the same trauma, actually carrying our trauma, the generational trauma that has been that poured into them. What can we do, especially in Baltimore, that we can change what's going? Because the violence has gotten worse. Black women are dying at more than they've died ever in Baltimore City. We have an epidemic. Children are missing. Children are being killed. What can we do collectively? Because it's so beautiful at Baltimore Corps with the social entrepreneurship and what we're doing, but collectively we could do a whole lot in the educational space, because it's almost like we got to teach community again, Fagan. It's like we got to teach it, because people are so fractured from what just having that connection of what they don't talk to the neighbors.
Yeah,
they have no relationship. I have relationships on my street. They all watch the children. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I want to circle back to something you said earlier. I think you said it so beautifully, Queen, about moving our communities to structure. I think if you step back, here's kind of what I see happening is, on the one hand, you got structure in a lot of predominantly white institutions, and then they try to move into community, right? And that doesn't work very well.
Doesn't work.
And then you got community, and I actually am an optimist. You got a lot of beautiful things happening in community, right? Because that desire to create, that desire to build, that desire to do something is irresistible. But we've got to do so much better to create a culture that moves that to structure.
Yes.
Right. When I think about my partnership with Antoine, a big part of what I try to support him in is help him be thoughtful about how to put structure around what he's doing. Not so much that it starts to stifle or strangle what's beautiful and organic, but enough that it is sustainable and can function and build for the long term.
It can scale. Yeah.
I think the mistake that we make as a city and as a really racist culture, just to be blunt, is we look at a lot of Black communities and we assume that there's nothing worthwhile going on in those communities.
That's true.
That there's nothing worth investing in. There's nothing beautiful happening there. And we all know that it's the polar opposite.
We know
that there is such a density of genius and talent, but it starts with us in terms of how we get out of bed and see the world. We got to change the way we see it, and we got to totally reorient how we think about investment. I think if you do that, to come back to your question, we can begin to reclaim what we had, right? Decades ago, our communities were not always like this.
Absolutely.
Right? We looked out for each other. We had support.
Yes.
And then other forces came in and subverted all of that.
Sure.
And so we also need to not lose track of our narrative and internalize it somehow, that this is just us and this is the way it's always been. And this is the way it's always going to be. This is an interruption in a tradition. And we need to restore and reclaim who we are as a people. And we got to introduce a little structure around our builders and our dreamers and our visionaries. And yeah, a lot of them are our children. Like these squeegee boys out here, I admire them. They're hustling, man. They're hustling. And so, but I mean, that's a great point though, but we treat them like they are a nuisance. Like what would an enlightened city do? We'd say, okay, well, New Orleans has got this rich street culture that makes it a global destination. Here we've got people doing all this stuff.
They empower all of the folks on the street to hustle. They want you to hustle.
We want you to hustle because it's what makes this place sticky. It's what makes this place memorable. It's what makes this place distinct.
It's the sauce.
Exactly. And so we got these beautiful young people out here who are trying to be useful. Let's just call it for what it is. They are trying to be useful.
Absolutely.
They are trying to create value.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of saying, how do we empower that and introduce some light structure around it, maybe a little training, maybe a little supervision, maybe some resources. Instead, it's like, well, we got to clear the corners. They're a nuisance. They're a problem. And that to me is illustrative of the overarching thing that we just reliably get wrong as a city. So much of this is what we choose to see.
Yep.
And we've got to learn to see it differently. And we got to start empowering a different kind of culture.
Oh, I like that. New glasses.
I was talking to somebody yesterday, right? And I said, when guys like came to the corner, we was like, why do people come out the alley hustling to come to the corner? And rest in peace, my man Cash, he used to always say, bro, dudes are on the corner because they's telling everybody we need help. Since y'all ain't gonna help us, we gonna show y'all how we gonna try to make it ourselves, right?
Wow.
And Cash used to always say, like, rule, like, if we was to go back in the alley, then nobody would really notice, and that's what they want, right? And a lot of times in a lot of discussions that we will have and say, like, open up airways and just let people be able to come to the store, let people do this. And I said to somebody the other night, I said, this thing that people are doing are hitting stores to grab ATMs is showing economically we suffering. So since you putting money in the machine and ain't gonna allow me to get it, I'm gonna take it.
I'm gonna take the machine.
I'm gonna take the machine then. I'm gonna get some money one way or another. Yeah. And I know personally, when you in a emotional, economical like strain, you'll do whatever to basically sing logic to make money. Whether like hop gates and pull out a strap and wind up risk 20 years in prison, or stand on the corner in the dead snow blizzard, but long as I can find a way to have some money to take care of my family, my homeboys, and whatever, we'll deal with the next issue when that comes. But right now, this is, and I've been saying, like I always say to you, Fagan, like, if we had direct employers that would like hire people and then do this 45-day model of like your analysis to bring them down on a waiver length to hire them, so many guys will get in. Us bringing like expungements and resources to the community. We see when we, like Queen, you done been there, we see when resources come,
they come.
People come. Like, what can I do and how can I want to get involved and da-da-da-da. But then on the back end, when they go to these places and they say, oh, your background and we can't do this, we can't do that, they be like, you know what? I should have never even did that. Man, them people set me up. I ain't trusting you on them. You know what I mean? So like, and we in a fight to try to build these relationships. Wow, like you said, socially stigmas have put cuffs on certain things and people are afraid to like, they got the key to unlock the cuff, but they like, what they gonna say about me if I help?
Well, I think a lot of times, a lot of being devil's advocate, people say, well, you shouldn't get in trouble. That is what people that throw that out there. Well, you shouldn't get in trouble. But I don't want to say that because things happen to people. But I think also we have to start thinking in a 21st century or 21st century model, whereas we're more innovative and creative, because the old model of getting jobs, it's not going to be the same. This digital and technology world that we're living in, we have to now flip and take the creativity that is in the African. And now we have to harness this greatness and innovative. We've created everything in the world. So now we have to let our children start creating, but we have to give them something that is boundless called technology, because the world is changing. And if we continue, and even these ex-felons, everybody can do this. I think we have to even change our mindset with this old way of give them jobs, create this space. Yes, they need jobs, but they need to create spaces for themselves because, as you say, the social stigma keeps them away from getting the job. So let's create the space where they make the job. It's possible, but it starts in the people who are out here as social entrepreneurs. We have to give that skill to young people and to ex-felons. Technology is ageless and boundless. And we got to find a way to create because it will not end. And the job thing is going to change and flip on ex-felons. I don't know what you guys think of that, but I really think that we got to think sharper and farther when it comes to the skills that we're going to give to people. What do you think about that, Fagan?
I think a few things. I would say something my mother taught me a long time ago when I was a little boy. It always made an impression on me. She said, Fagan, whatever somebody does makes sense to them in that moment when they're doing it. Nobody gets up out of bed and says, you know what I'm gonna do today? Something crazy. Something that makes no damn sense to anybody. That is not how people think. Yeah. And so even when people do bad things, it A, doesn't mean they're bad people. And B, it doesn't even necessarily mean that it's irrational that they did that bad thing. It made sense to them in that context.
That moment. Yeah.
And that's informed by trauma, and that's informed by education or the lack of education. That's informed by kind of the broader culture, which we know is racist and sexist and transphobic and this, right? Like there's a lot of inputs that go into a human being moving in the world and making decisions. And I think as a culture, we've got to be a lot more graceful and compassionate with people, right? And you got to offer people a path back. So that's number one. And I think that's something everybody can do, right? Like we could all choose to extend a hand and say, you know what? I'm not going to participate in a culture that stigmatizes people with a criminal record because that is fucked up and we shouldn't do that to people.
That's true.
Right. So that's like number one. I think number two, you're exactly right on the job piece. Technology's changing the game, and increasingly people need to be a brand unto themselves, and they need to understand how to talk about their skills and their gifts. And there's like good and bad news in that. So here's the good news. The good news is that the old days of, hey, you need to have so many years of experience, you have this kind of degree and these kind of skill, that's going away. People more and more, because they want to participate in a culture that doesn't stigmatize people for whatever reason, they want to hear you make your case about why you're right for this. And so that's going to open up opportunity for some folks. But if you don't know how to navigate that, if that's kind of contrary to everything that you've been raised with and brought up in, that's going to be a very harsh reality to wake up to. And the thing I worry about is that's going to leave a lot of people out. And there's a lot of people who are already at the margin, struggling to kind of get in there and figure it out. And it's going to get harder for them. And I actually wonder this a lot, Antoine, about you and your experience. Like, it must be a little bit like when you got out, like a time machine, right? Like you get out, all of a sudden, everybody's got one of these, right? And that was not a thing when you went in, like not by a long shot. And that was like a quantum leap in technological development. And I marvel at your ability to adopt and navigate all these tools. Like Bobby Kennedy had a quote that youth isn't a time of life, it's a state of mind. And so Antoine's one of the youngest people I've ever met because his mindset is young. And I don't know how you teach that, but that's what's going to be required, I think, to navigate this environment. Otherwise, it's going to get real tough.
Yeah.
Like I often like tell guys, like for you know, heard me say in front of like Patty and them that I have a value that I can bring to the table that ultimately brings an upliftment to your company. And I always like tell guys, like, if you stood outside, you know, and made a corner that was a stoplight or just a left turn, right turn, and you made hundreds of people come there and come see you.
Yes.
You can, I know I can run a corporation.
Wow.
Because not only did I do that on one block, the blocks that I was involved in and me and homies were on, was getting hit every 5 to 7 seconds with knockers, jump outs, and raiding houses. You know, so, and then I look at all my guys that's an active part of Hope with me throughout this pandemic. When everything shut down, I said, bro, you know, we can't panic. We got to look at how to get through this. We got to present ourselves that we are the hope for those who's coming behind us that really don't know what to do. You know, we got to keep our head above water and look back and show people like, bro, we ain't got to swim. Grab my hand and we going to breaststroke and pull together. You know, and we pulled through. And even those that's on SSI and disability, they have even gotten into their mind that, man, they ain't gonna just tell me I can only work for 20-something hours. Bro, I'm trying to do something under the table. You know, one of my guys, you know, he worked down ACH, you know, and he love it down there. But he made a way to, like, if I work here, because, like, can y'all, like, fortitude my bills and make sure that the housing is paid for? So they put him in a housing program that as long as he do 20 hours a week work, he don't get the money, but his rent is paid. You know, and
that's creative.
Sometimes, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You gotta, like you said, Queen, you gotta become creating the model line that benefits you to market your brand so that you can be safe, stable, and you can be okay. You know what I mean? Give somebody that vision that if he did it, I know I can do it.
Yeah.
Can I weigh in on something on that Antoine just said that I think is a really important point as well? If you run a big company, or if you are an employer or even a small business, and you have processes that impact people's experiences, whether it's candidates or people who work there, I think something that we take for granted that we should not is that most of these processes do not work for people, right? Like, I want to go back to the phone.
That's so true.
Thousands of people worked on this to make this, like, where you use it and it's just intuitive and it's just a glass screen and you can get, like, a child can
millions of engineers' hands.
Yeah. Spent millions of hours figuring out how to do that. And I marvel that things that really control people's destinies, whether they get a job or not. I go on some of these websites, whether it's a job with the government or an application for a grant, and it is impossible to navigate. And it does not work for people, and it excludes people. And just even that, those little decisions get in the way of progress. And a lot of what we try to do is say, like, elevation, that was one of the things that we talked about at the very beginning. How do we make this so easy for people? Like, if it's about elevating community genius, how do we make this like turnkey? A couple of questions. It better be mobile enabled. It better not be any song and dance. Let's help it do what it's supposed to do, as opposed to erecting all of these barriers. And this is what Antoine dedicates his life to, which is barrier relief. We need a culture of barrier relief across all these systems, because once you start paying attention to them, you realize, oh my God, they are everywhere.
Yeah.
And no wonder people ain't getting nowhere.
Everywhere.
No wonder people ain't getting nowhere.
If you go, I'm educated. That USDA.gov application. Oh my God. And if you make one mistake, you lose everything. It's crazy. But I think that's the setup. You know,
that's the setup.
That's absolutely the setup.
Absolutely.
And we got to understand that even in these systems that we want jobs in, there's a setup. And so on the ancillary, we can get jobs, but we got to teach skills. We got to teach skill sets. We got to dig into what's going now and mindset, skill sets, and applying it to technology. I think it's just so important, because if we want to be in the future, we got to start digging into futuristic things. And, you know, we were taught to go to college and get a job. That day is over.
Yeah.
And you might not think it is. It's still here, but it's a big, college is a dinosaur. I'm being honest. And I'm college educated. I'm not saying not be educated. I'm saying that you better use that knowledge to be creative.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. And we have to look at the old model. The old model is technology is going to take it away. They're looking at, some people are getting jobs just with their portfolio. They have no education, just portfolio. What websites have you built? What graphic design have you done? Portfolio's all you need. You don't need any education.
No.
That's where the world is going. It's what you
show,
produce.
don't tell.
It's a show me world.
Yeah.
And we have to, when we got the ex-felons coming out who's in the jail drawing and they're creating all of this stuff from nothing, we got to look at, they're doing tattoos, burning toothbrushes. They're doing amazing creative stuff in jail. We got to find a way to take that ingenuity and move it towards a skill set. That's just how I feel.
100,000%.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
Like, and also having people, right, really understand that they have something to bring to the table.
Yes.
Because like I always say that if you don't like believe in you, no one else got a reason to believe in you. You know, if you don't see yourself sitting across the table and asking yourself, why should I hire you? And you like know vividly like how you are, then, you know, but like you say, there are people that's sitting home and through Facebook and they're developing online businesses, you know, from scratch. And these are like tunnels of money that's coming in, but people like are not understanding how to connect and make it bigger. Like you doing that at home, but you can have a warehouse where people can come pick up and you can have all of it and you can do all of it offline and they just write out a self-storage.
Yep. And we got to do structure to scale. You know?
Going, you know? So like you say, like the mind, you know, it was a quote, what do you say? The man who understands the precision of the gift of his mind can change the world.
Ouch.
But the man who don't understand the gift that he has in his mind, he a value to nobody.
Wow.
You know, and that's something.
That's heavy.
Every day when I wake up and hit the ground, thank you, God, for giving me another day. Today gonna be better, harder, and greater than the next day.
Love it.
You know?
Love it.
Like Fagan killing it. And we always talk about this, and he'll tell me something. I say, well, you know, he said, man, I was somewhere talking to some people. They told me they want you to be a board member. Like, I'm on your heels, bro.
It's a beautiful thing, you know, to you know, Toine, you're like a flower. And, you know, you have this flower and sometimes no one watered it. You saw the petals broke. The flower looked a mess. And then some water came along. Some sun came along. The earth, you know, got a little moist. And now the flower is just blooming. And that's where you are from when I first met you. And so, you know, it's just a blessing. And to see this is that it's not where you start.
No,
it's not, because you can finish on top.
On top.
But you have to change, you have to believe in yourself, and you have to be humble and do things the right way. And, and your life will change. And so you being at the helm of hope is a beautiful thing because you're hope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you the point about finishing is so right. And Antoine nails it. You finish every day. Every day is about continuous improvement. And I think entrepreneurship, even though it does begin and end with you, is actually a team sport.
All day.
Yeah.
All day long, right? All you're doing is working through and with other people. And so to anyone who's interested in social entrepreneurship, particularly in our community, I just want to voice over that it's okay to be afraid to do that. It's okay to have fear. It's okay to be anxious about it. And you have to conquer it. I'm sure there are days where everyone on this interview right here, this time, we're all entrepreneurs. We've all had days where 3 a.m.
Yeah.
You know,
how I'm gonna get through it. I gotta figure this out.
How am I gonna make it?
Yeah.
I can't tell you the number of sleepless nights.
Nice.
I swear, the number of just.
I just had one. It
it weighs on you, and invariably, the best thing you can do is to call a teammate. And they may not be on the team, but there are people out there who are in your corner, and we have to be unafraid to ask for help. We have to be unafraid to be in community with one another, and we have to be unafraid to continuously improve, which means admitting where I don't know what to do here. Can you help me figure it out?
No.
And I think sometimes our community has all the beauty and all the genius, and then we struggle sometimes to put some structure around it, to kind of scale it, to give it shape. And then we internalize it as if we're a failure, as if we're not capable of building anything. And everybody can build. And it looks different for everybody.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It should. That's the diversity of the human race.
Yeah. We've been a target of demise for so long. We've internalized that.
Yeah.
And it's so unfortunate. But everything great comes out of our community. Let's be clear. And everyone is trying to get a piece of that gold. And so we have to now understand what we are, who we are, and be that light and be that gold. And it's a process, but being a social entrepreneur, when you see the work being applied and you see it working, it is the most gratifying. It's those sleepless nights. It's no better feeling than pouring into somebody else's life.
Greatest feeling in the world.
It's no other feeling. That's why I tell people, you can talk about money, you can talk about all of this stuff, but there's no better feeling than another human getting it. The light bulb coming on. Them understanding that I'm here for you. Ain't nothing better than that.
I'm with you. You know, I always say, like,
and if you haven't felt it, I challenge you to pour into someone else. Because when you pour into somebody else, your cup is full, and now you have a way to pour into someone else. Your cup become more full by pouring into them. And when we do that, we all win. And we have to think like that. And that's what social entrepreneurship is giving when you're not expecting anything but the outcome.
Being socially related to help your others and your teams become entrepreneurs.
Ain't nothing better.
That's all it is. And when you get to see those you see struggling, and then they make it and see the expression just how it was for you. Because that's all I the money, whatever. I just like saying when dudes like, bro, I just moved to my house and I got my job, I got to do this. I ain't got to worry about none of that no more. Yeah. One of my guys was like, all he wanted to do was take his grandkids to the Ravens game.
Oh, wow.
And he was able to take, and I said, bro, here's the plan. This is what you can do. This is how you can do it. Do this, A, B, C, boom. You can go there, watch the game. And that was the greatest thing for him. Listen,
small victories.
Small victories leads to the dynamic wins.
You better know it. You better know. And so someone might say, well, why would you want to do? That's what he wanted to do for his grandkids.
Yeah.
And you don't know how that will change the grandchild's trajectory by being exposed to something that they've never been exposed to. Because exposure sometimes is sometimes it's a learning tool. And children need to be in different spaces. So you can't negate what somebody wants for themselves or their family.
Absolutely.
So that's a good thing.
And whether it's the ball game or anything, the biggest thing the child's being exposed to is they're seeing an authority figure, a role model in their life, set a goal and meet a goal.
There we go.
And that is the most powerful thing you can give someone is a sense of agency and a sense of empowerment and a sense that this world we live in, you can poke it, you can prod it, you can pull it, you can change it.
Yeah.
It does not have to be the way that it is now. It does not have to be the way that it's been told to us. You are more than capable. You are more than enough to change your destiny and that of others. But it starts here.
Yeah.
Gotta start with you.
Gotta start
with you. Just to poke your face through the clouds to see what's over there. And then you say, I want to be over here. Here I am.
Yeah.
Here I am. I'm here. And we're going to visually like make a way, and like every day, the greatest like thing in life that meant to me was my mother and my daughter seeing, because I showed something that didn't give them an honor to really be like, he ain't gonna never change. But then the day that my daughter, I sent her some stuff and showed her this what I'm doing, this how I'm doing, and she said, Daddy, I am so like proud of you, because like where you were, I knew one day if you put your mind to it, you would be who I thought you are today. You know what I'm saying? And even my niece, like, you know, when my niece went to school for her to write on somebody important in her life, and she gave an article about what I was doing, that blew my mind. So that made me more bigoted. Like, guess what? Ain't nothing gonna stop me until I lay my own poetry about like, and the hope is coming. You know what I'm saying?
I love the shoulders. Hope is coming.
Hope is coming.
And that's a beautiful thing when your family has seen you through the dust, and then now they see you take a shower and you clean. Shoot. And then thinking of you in that way. It's a beautiful feeling, you know.
Community and all, man.
Yeah, community and all. And that's what we live for. And we got to do these things in our community. You know, social entrepreneurship is a responsibility, but it is something that but if you can do it, it's very satisfactory. It's a soul defining process for me. You know, and I think a lot of people play with it and they get in it for the wrong reasons. But if you're in it to really build people, it's nothing better than it.
Well, because the people don't lie. Like, the people don't follow bullshit.
Nope.
True.
Nope.
So I mean, that's also part of it, right? Is like,
that's so true. Yep.
People are smart.
They're not gonna take no shit. That's the truth.
No, and I think sometimes people get in the game and they think it's all about the grants. If I could figure out the grant thing, then I'm going to do it. Or it's all about the press or the publicity. If I get my name in print, it's all about that. No, it's about changing lives and whether people are in solidarity with you in doing that work. And there are no substitutes around it. And if you're full of it, you could have all the grants and all the press in the world, and it ain't going to work. And in some ways, like, it's almost a cliche how many really well-funded organizations there are that really have no connection to the communities they purport to serve, right?
Absolutely.
And so that's as old as the hill.
We see it every day.
Right.
Yeah. Well-funded, but not well-loved.
Some of them,
I'm telling you that.
Actually, some of them things, you know, have created barriers why community can't get ahead,
because they keep the funds coming to themselves. Yeah, you know, so it's the payoff is to never to cure the problem, because if you cure the problem, there's no more payoff.
You put yourself out of business.
Yeah.
You caught that the other day.
Yeah, I mean, that's the medical field. I work in the medical field. They're not curing cancer.
Absolutely.
Why would they? Because it's more. It takes more. The money that you get paid for cancer. We gotta keep that around.
You gotta keep it around.
Keep that around. They're not curing anything. The money is in the prevention, not in the cure. Never been. And so we have to understand that. And the ones who are out here doing the real work, we have to continue to do real work, but also build others who want to be a part of this work. You know, this is a communal thing, and it's important. So I want you guys we are hour in. This has been a beautiful conversation. I am Fagan. Listen, I'm so glad you came through. Antoine he's like a light bulb over there. So I know, I know that's your man. I can see it.
I got, like, you know, y'all my family.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You know, like, and I like my network, they my family. Exactly. You know what I mean? They know people who my family, they know who my family is. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah.
Like,
I can see it. You write it in the bulb behind you.
Well, you know. And Queen, you know, because you my sister, you've been around me.
Absolutely.
You know what like turns me, what shies me back when I ain't bothering with them. Yeah, I'm here, but like
you quiet.
Really ain't here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
when you sitting up engaged, I know where you are. And so today I know you're engaged, and that's a beautiful thing. So I know you guys have a special relationship. So listen, I really appreciate you coming on. I know you're a busy guy because you were teaching before you came right in after teaching, and so I appreciate that. I know it's dinner time. We don't want to hold you any longer, but I want you to leave a jewel with the people. Leave something to inspire, encourage, and motivate our community.
Well, Queen, thanks for having me. Antoine, I love you, man. God bless you. Thank you both.
Man.
If you're thinking about doing social entrepreneurship, I want you to think about what the target is behind the target. And here's what I mean by that. You got on this broadcast 2 of the best social entrepreneurs in Baltimore. And I'll tell you what the target is behind the target for each of them. So Antoine runs Hope. And the target is, let's make sure that returning citizens have the support they need to live the lives of dignity and success that we want to see for them. But you know what the target behind the target is? Returning citizens are hope. They are stories of redemption.
Yes.
They show us that there is another path and that all of us not just deserve second, third, and fourth and fifth chances, but we really don't have any other way out of this other than to invest back into ourselves and to heal that trauma and to heal the pain.
Absolutely.
That's the target behind the target.
Love
when
that.
you hear Antoine talk, he doesn't just talk about, oh, we're doing this service or we're doing that service. Anytime you hear an entrepreneur or a service provider talking a lot about the tactics and the minutia and the detail, and there's not a target behind the target, they've lost the thread of what is really going on here. Hope Baltimore is so powerful because it is catalyzing a following. It's catalyzing a movement of people who really believe that there is hope in our communities, that hope is alive in some of the most distressed places in Baltimore City, which rank among the most distressed places on planet Earth. That hope is alive.
Yep.
And that people who've had pain, who've had trauma, who've had setback are the answer. If we can just see it and they can see it, hope is alive. And Queen, what you're doing, right? The target is like, let's do a broadcast, let's interview folks, we'll talk about things, we'll get it out there. And what you're really doing is you're saying our voices matter. And our voices deserve center stage, and our voices deserve sustained attention. And that sustained dialogue by, for, and of us is critically needed, and it's missing from this media landscape. And so I see you both, and I see what you're doing, and I see the target behind the target. And so my kind of encouragement to anyone thinking about doing this, don't just stop at, well, I want to do X. I want to mentor some kids. What's the target behind the target? So what? What happens if you mentor those kids? What about the way that you're thinking about that is going to change the game?
Yeah.
The target behind the target.
Sure, boy. No, boy, you hot.
You are fire right now. Wow. I'm like, wow. Yeah, I'm inspired. That's amazing. You're right. You have a target, but there's a target.
There's a deeper thing, and you know what you're doing, Queen.
Piece of that target. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what you're doing. This is a calling for you.
It is.
It's something that you had to do.
I had to do. Left my job to do.
Yeah, you had to do
it. Had to do. Listen, this has been beautiful, and it's always beautiful to be in community with Black men. Black men are dope. I appreciate being in community every month with every day actually, but definitely when I have these conversations, because people, we sleep on Black men, and that's a problem. And so I'm so glad that this space is here where we can platform Antoine, and I can platform a Fagan. So I appreciate you guys for having me, being a part of Black Box Radio, and being on tonight. This has been precious and beautiful, and I appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thank you both so much.
Appreciate you too.
We are boxed up and out, guys. Can we get some deuces?
Box up.
Box up.
Box up.
Don't go nowhere.